Our Across the Aisle segment tonight, Richard Spencer was punched in the face by an anti-Trump protester on Inauguration Day. Now you'll remember Spencer isn't about so I'm not shedding any tears on his behalf in a personal sense, but the reaction to the event has been interesting. Many people on the left are cheering on the unprovoked attack and insisting that it's okay to punch Nazis, yet they label everybody that they don't agree with or don't like as a Nazi. Now, at a Milo Yiannopoulos event on UC Berkeley's campus, they're excusing rioting and political violence because they believe Milo practices hate speech, although, again, they don't define the term. So where do we draw the line here? Joining me now to discuss, attorney and Democratic strategist Adam Sostrin and nationally syndicated radio host, conservative political advocate Autry Pruitt. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Adam, let me start with you. This idea, it's being purported right now by the left that if somebody is a Nazi, it's okay to punch them. And like I said, it's sort of an alt-left idea right now. What do you think of that?
Well, I guess you can want to punch them if they are a Nazi. If you do punch them, if they are a Nazi, you could get arrested. You could get battery charges and things like that. Unfortunately, we have police that arrest us for those things. So where are we going?
Well, where I'm going here is the idea of justification for some of this political violence. I'll pivot directly to these riots that happened on Berkeley's campus that were meant to shut down the free speech of Milo Yiannopoulos. Many on the left are excusing it, saying, well, free speech doesn't protect hate speech, which they claim is what Milo Yiannopoulos comes to say. And I guess I don't quite understand that idea that violence is okay to wage against someone if you just don't agree with their political opinion.
Well, you know, it's funny. I was just reading an article about it a long time ago. I think Chris Cuomo misspoke, and he said the First Amendment didn't protect hate speech. But of course, hate speech really, it's never been part of the analysis for the First Amendment. There was even a famous case, Brandenburg v. Ohio, and there was a KKK leader that was allowed to speak. And the two issues that the court, the analysis was whether or not, yes, does it incite violence, and also, is there a likelihood of violence? Having not found that second prong, the court determined that speech was protected. So we have a very robust First Amendment. Hate speech is indeed protected.
Right, and I mean, we're from different parties. We come at this from different perspectives, but I would agree with you, Adam. Autry, let me turn to you and ask, these agitators, these people that were conducting this violence on Berkeley's campus, claimed that they were anti-fascist. So that's what they branded themselves. They claimed that they were standing up to fascism. But isn't shutting down the free speech of someone else, isn't that actually the definition of fascism?
It absolutely is. In fact, if you study the history of fascism, it is the progressive left that is the true fascist party. If you actually look at the history of fascism, they praised Mussolini. The left in this country, both in the Saturday Evening Post and in the New York Times, when Mussolini came to power, praised him. So they indeed are the definition of fascism. And furthermore, one of the things the left is trying to do is they're actually trying to use emotional and psychological warfare on anyone else who's conservative, anyone else who doesn't think like them, in order to stress out the country. So we will throw up our hands and say, you know what, have it, take it, pass whatever, repeal the First Amendment, repeal the Second Amendment, have whatever you want. That's the real strategy behind this list.
And let me just interrupt really briefly on that. It's not just, this isn't an issue of just the left shutting down speech. Historically, in the 1930s, we had a similar issue that was happening where German university students were trying to shut down speakers of the left and Jews. And after that, people were burning books. There's something happening right now on college campuses. For instance, if I go to a campus and I support Israel,
what's happening is police aren't doing their job. That's what's happening. Police aren't doing their job. One arrest. Police are not doing their job. So when you say there's something happening, what's happening is chaos and anarchy in the streets. How many times does this have to happen before Democrats on the left?
Of course, there should have been more arrests on the Berkeley campus. I can't understand it. I think they said that there was over $100,000 worth of damage. But there's certain correctness that's happening, throughout. At universities, people need a safe space. People have microaggressions, things like that. You can't speak on certain subjects. It's a certain poison that's going on. And these people, and yes, I am a Democrat, but I'm not going to say that those people that want this speech stifled at any cost are liberal. I don't consider
Well,
them
and Adam, let me jump in for just a second, because earlier in the show we talked with the Berkeley College Republican president, the one who invited Milo Yiannopoulos. His name was Jose Diaz, and I asked him if these protesters, these agitators, the violent ones, if they were students on the campus or if they were outside agitators that came in, because that's what the mainstream media has been reporting. And he said both. He said that there were some people that came in from the outside, but that liberal students who were part of this original protest were taking part, were being enabled. And I honestly, when you're talking, sometimes I wonder, why are you a Democrat here? Because you clearly understand the First Amendment. You understand that hate speech, even if it's offensive, is protected by the First Amendment. You understand the danger, the poison, to use your word, of political correctness, of safe spaces on campus. This is being fostered by your own party.
Well, listen, I think I understand that that Democrats speak of liberal values. What's happening right here, and the people that took part in these protests, if you're throwing Molotov cocktails at buildings and trying to destroy property in order to stifle speech, that is the definition of not liberalism. That is not what liberalism stands for. That is not what the Democratic Party stands for. And in fact, the chancellor at Berkeley and officials at Berkeley said that they found this to be one of the saddest occurrences, because Berkeley, right, is supposed to be one of the campuses where it's supposed to be a beacon of free speech.
And Audrey, let me just pivot to you for 1 second. Right, let me pivot to you for 1 second before we run out of time here, because if that is true, if these are not the values that are represented, that the Democratic Party represents, that they stand for, why don't they disavow them? Why are they the ones that are, entrenched in these universities, that are supportive of these safe spaces, that are supportive of political correctness? Because this is what political correctness leads to.
You're exactly right. They won't disavow them because they're voters. That's why they won't disavow them, because they need these people to turn out and vote, so what happened this past election won't happen in the next election. But furthermore, don't just look at the physical protest. The left has gone through actual administrative means, such in the case of Condoleezza Rice, for example, to keep speakers off campus. It's not just protest or violence. They're actually using the administrative state inside these universities to keep conservative speakers away.
It's funny, just to add to that, and as much as I disagree with any of that behavior, that even, for instance, so many tenured professors, they don't speak out. They're trying to be politically correct. So absolutely, something's got to give. This can't go on anymore. The university is supposed to be the place where we have that free interplay, that exchange of ideas. That's what we need.
Right. No, and I think you put it exactly correct. Something's got to give here. Either the Democratic Party has to disavow this and help reform the environment, the climate of political correctness on universities, or they're going to have to own it, in which case it's going to be pretty clear what values they stand for. Adam, Audrey, thank you both for being here. It was great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.